Howdy folks. All right, we're moving on to the next portion here. So we looked at, of those CRUD operations, create, which is insert, we haven't done yet, read, which is select, we did do, update and delete. So we've done one. Let's take a look at inserting data now, or creating data. So what I want to do to make this more interesting is actually give the user a form to enter values into. So give me just a second. I'm going to go copy a form here because I hate typing these things by hand. Let's grab a form. Let's see, one of these ones here. There we go. So here's a form. And this sort of thing is probably best as a post, right? Because if we're going to be modifying something, I want to be posting that data so it doesn't happen again. All right, so we'll have a couple of these. We'll have a symbol, and then the value of that should be symbol. Then we'll have the name. The value of that should just be name. And then we need current price. So one more here of those for current price. That'll be current price. Okay, and we want to send that. We'll just send it to our index page here. We're going to do everything on the index page for now, just to have everything in one place. It's not the prettiest design, but we'll worry about making things prettier a little later on here. And this will be add stock. Okay, so if you give me a name or a symbol, a name, and a current price, we can add that stock. So what we want to do then is we want to see, hey, if they gave us something here, let's go try and do these things. Okay, so we're still connecting, we're still listing all of them out, closing that cursor down, perfectly fine. Then the next thing I want to do is look for those values. So we'll have a symbol is going to be the filter input, and then the type is going to be, so for a symbol, that's just a that's just text here, right? So the one here, so this will be from post here, input post here, and then what we want out of that is the symbol. Now we probably want to do the HTML special characters here again as well, special characters, just to make sure it all gets cleaned up before it gets put into the database. That's probably a good thing here. So we'll do that for symbol, we'll do it for name, and then we need a current price. So current price doesn't need the special characters. Current price. It just needs to be validated, so this will be current price. And then for this one, we want a filter validate as a probably a float here, right? Because we want some sort of decimal place, likely here for this one. Right? You don't want that to be an integer. Okay, so we'll get those values. Now, if they don't exist, right, then we can go check it or give some sort of error message here, or just not do anything. So maybe we can just say, hey, if symbol does not equal empty, and my name does not equal something empty, and then how about and current price does not equal 0, right? Because 0 will be that default price. So if it's not any of those, great. Right, we've got some values, we can go ahead. So we're going to do that same idea here. So we're going to create a query, we're going to prepare it, and then we're going to execute it. But there's one other step we need to do, which is plug these values in. So what I would like you not to do here, query, I'll show you the really bad way here. This, I'll put some danger. This is the bad approach for sure. We'll say, hey, I want to, now if you don't remember the insert syntax, we'll come back here and we'll say, hey, let's go ahead and insert some data. So I want to insert some data. We can say, hey, what's the symbol here? So let's come up with a symbol. How about Microsoft? MSFT, Microsoft, MSFT. Let's see, they're 274.58, 274.58. Again, you don't need to give it an ID here because that is auto-filled here. And what I can do is instead I can say this preview SQL instead of go if I want to see what that's going to look like. It'll say insert into stocks, symbol, name, current price. It gives ID, I'm just going to ignore that, and we give it values here. So this is actually not too bad for us to type. We could do all this here, it's probably not too bad. So for our query, we could go and give it this here, and let's go and take all of these extra backticks. That's not helpful for us. And again, I'm going to get rid of ID because we don't need to bother with it here. Now, instead of those values, right, we don't want to say specifically Microsoft, MSFT, and the price here. what you could do is plug in your symbol, your name, and your current price. This is really bad. Don't do this, because if someone gave you something that's not HTML special characters, but had special values for the database itself, we'd be doing what's known as a SQL injection attack. They're injecting SQL commands into something you're running directly in the database. This is bad. This is SQL injection risk here. So don't just write your own queries and substitute values in, right? Don't ever just plug values into a query, right? It's real bad here. We need to be filtered out. So I'm going to actually just comment that one out, because that's no good here. What we want to do instead here is we're going to write the query similarly here, but we're going to use something, we're going to use some substitutes. So instead of the symbol here, we're going to put a colon sign symbol, a colon sign name, and a colon sign. It's not even a sign, just colon here. So these colons here, so instead use substitutions. Substitutions. So colon the value, colon the value, colon the value. What we then get to do after we prepare the query, so then I'll make my statement and I'll say, hey, that's going to be my database. Database, arrow prepare query, given the query. After it's been prepared, then we can take our statement here and we're going to say, I want to arrow bind value. And what do we want to do? So I want to bind the symbol here with the symbol variable. So data binding, or value binding in PDO protects against SQL injection. So if you try and give it some bad is that even right? I think it is. So if you try and give it some sort of malicious value here, it's going to get sanitized and protected against when you use the bind value. You don't want to have to do that yourself, right? Smart people have looked at this, they validated, yes, it does what it's supposed to do, and we'll be safe using this. So you give it the substitute name and then the variable. So we'll say, hey, when you go and run, take my symbol variable and plug it in right here. That's all it is for us. So similar to the other approach, but it goes through a process of sanitizing. So we'll do symbol, we'll do name, we'll do current price. Name, dollar name, and current price. Dollar current price. And this is why it's nice to have all your variables with similar names here. Then when we're done, we can execute our query. Statement, execute the query, execute, and then we want to close the cursor. Close cursor. So you always want to close the cursor when you're done. Now what we should do actually is do this first, before we then go and run our next one here. So we'll connect to the database. Then before we go and run all of this query here, let's go and see, hey, if there's something to insert, let's go ahead and insert, and then we'll go and get the list out here. Okay? Let's give that a shot here. Give that a save, give it a run. So we should see a form here to add a new stock. And it's not, maybe we want to space this out a little bit here. Let's come down. Maybe we'll clean this up a little bit. So for a form, we'll put in, I don't know, maybe a H2, and say add stock or something here, just to clean it up a little bit, H2, and maybe even a line break. Just making it look a little prettier here, just for my sanity. Yeah, so now we can add a stock. Cool. So what should we add? So let's add Microsoft, right? Microsoft. And what do we say the price was for Microsoft? $274.58. $274.58. We'll go ahead and give it an add. And we see it was added to the database. We now list it out here, and we're back to our page. We've posted here. So if I do refresh with an F5, it's going to warn me, hey, do you want to resubmit? And I can cancel that, because you generally don't want to do that. And actually, if we tried to refresh here and resend, we get an integrity constraint violation, duplicate entry MSFT for key stock symbol. Remember, when we created that table, we said, hey, the symbol needs to be unique. And now bad stuff happened because we had an exception, and we are trying to loop over things that don't exist. So a little ugly here. But again, we got an exception. We can work about cleaning this up later. All right, so that's for inserts then. Again, you want to make sure you're going to bind your values here. That's the super important part here. So you're protected against SQL injection. Right, do your bind values in your query, and they just plug right in into insert commands. All right, folks, I'll see you in the next video.